let's begin. So we are in the book reading club, okay, which we are that is organized under the 360 career vision, which is the NGO. Okay. So the chapters or the book which we have started is the Escaping the Build Trap, and I have been allocated for the part 1 and the chapter 1. So these are the uh, uh, pages which have been allocated to me. So what I have done over here is, since it is the first session, what I thought, let's start the things which is intrinsically uh, targeted by the author. Okay, what does this mean is there are certain things which are been already told in the book, so we all know that, okay, what are those things, but the author has assumed certain things. Okay, so those things I'm going to cover. Okay, so those are not those are certain things from the chapters, and there are certain things which any product pioneer in that category. So whatever they speak, so I'm going to cover that one as well. Okay, so whenever we speak about the product, okay, and whenever these pioneers are speaking about the product, they are trying to bring a shift left innovation culture, or the shift left culture. Okay, shift left culture. Now let's understand what is that shift left culture these authors are trying to emphasize. Okay, the shift left word is not new in the IT world, but from the product space, what is that shift left? We will see. Okay, so whenever we speak with any IT leaders, CXOs, and all those things, they always speak about the reducing the OPEX cost, improving the overall efficiency, bringing the innovation, automation, then bringing the agile, then the ops, safe, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all these things. Okay, so this we call as the solution space. This we call as the solution space. So here we are speaking how to build the solution. And majority of the IT leaders, majority of the CXOs, whenever we see, we try to find these things. But the product leader, the author of this book, and the author or the related people in this category, they have a little bit different mindset. They don't speak about the solution that much. They don't speak about the automation, agile, day ops, safe, AI, and all those things. Not that much. Okay, but they emphasize on what? They emphasize on the problem statement. They emphasize on the product space. They emphasize on what to build part. Okay, so the author and the people in that category of people, of author, so they are emphasizing a lot on the product part. They are emphasizing a lot on the what to build part. Okay, not how to build the solution. Okay, when they speak about the problem, or when they speak about the product space or the problem space, what these people are telling, start always with why. In our IT world, there is very rare culture for any of the user story. We ask why we are building what we are building. Very rare we ask. Whatever we do is that, or the culture what we have, as soon as the user story is coming, or whenever we are speaking about any user story, at the background, our mind, in our brain, we always start thinking what store procedure I need to modify, what code I need to modify, what new code I need to add. We don't see why we are building what we are building. We rarely ask, if I build this user story, what customer experience will increase, or how the customer experience will increase. We don't see that one. We don't speak about those metrics. After building the user story, what should be the metrics part? We rarely speak about that. Sorry. Then we rarely speak about the NPS. Does anyone know what is NPS? Nowadays, it is
Net promoter score.
गूगल करके बोला ना उसने.
Yes, Abdul.
How about others?
Yeah, I think this is Net Promoter Scores. I think in addition there is something called as ENPS, which is getting also renowned nowadays.
Good, good, good. So let me address that part as well. When we speak about the net promoter score, it is always from the overall organization perspective. Okay. And when we speak about the ENPS, then that is specific to that team. That is called as the employee net promoter score.
That's right.
Okay, that is called as the employee net promoter score. The net promoter score is always considered broadly from the organization perspective, and the ENPS is referred from that team perspective. Because suppose I am working for any of the team, okay, when I speak about the employee net promoter score, that means how much I am satisfied, with my team, or how mostly I am going to refer my team to the other team. So that we consider as the ENPS. And the NPS is the how most likely I am going to refer an organization, a company, to other friend. Okay, so that we call as the NPS. Okay,
But
so
in this
if
space, product space, it is how much we are going to refer the product, right? When we're talking about NPS from the
yes,
product space.
yes, NPS is from that perspective, from that product. Okay,
Yeah.
I agree, Rahul, with your point. Okay, so whenever we are deploying the features, we rarely measure after deploying this feature or the user story, how much my NPS is going to increase. We rarely speak that one. Okay, sorry for that one. Then we also rarely speak with these deployments whether my customer base is going to increase or not. Okay, then we rarely think about the revenue part as well, because if I have implemented so many features, how much my organization revenue is going to increase. We rarely speak these things because we are coming completely from the IT mindset, and that IT mindset is speaking improve the efficiency, improve the number of user stories which we have shipped. Okay, so rather than becoming a product based organization or product based team, we are becoming the IT based team, where we are considering our success from the number of features we have deployed, from the efficiency only, or from the burn down charts. Okay, that we are considering. But being an organization, a product based organization, we need to think about the customer base. We need to think about the revenue. If we don't speak about these things after deploying the feature, then I think we are not fully done. We are not fully done, because Forbes has done one study, and what it is telling, the investment which we are doing on the right side, okay, about the how to build the solution, whatever the innovation, whatever the automation which we are doing, out of that only 25% is useful. This is not me, this is what the articles on the Forbes. Only 25% is useful, and 75% of the features which we are building, so that is not useful. So imagine on the right side, we have done 100 million of investment. Okay, that is the cost or whatever it is, but out of that one, only 25% has given outcome to our organization. Okay, and these authors studied these things, how we can improve the 25% to maximum, how we can improve the 25% to the maximum. That they are calling as the customer mindset, or they are calling as the product mindset. And these authors are emphasizing on the problem space or the product space a lot. These authors are not going to speak on the technology space. And these authors did certain kind of POCs, did certain kind of analysis, and they try to identify how we can improve this wastage, of 75%. And what they found, if we spend sufficient energy, time on the discovery, then our maximum investment, which we have done on the right side, that is going to increase. Okay, so whenever we are reading these books, we need to keep in mind they are not going to speak about the solution space. They are more going to speak about the problem space or the product space. And they try to start from the customer, because whenever we think of about any product, we start with the technology. But these authors are not starting with the technology, they are starting from the customer. Okay, here I was using a term, or in these books, the author is using the word product. What is the definition of the product? Okay, anything that adds value to the customer. Anything that adds value to the customer. So those are the, so this is the broadly a broad layman definition about the product. It is given by David Hessman. Okay, so whenever they speak about the product, we need to consider this definition. The author is using the Marketly and the other organization as the case study. Okay, and these two words are maximum use. We know what do we mean by value. Okay, value, we all know that. Okay, we all are senior people. Value doesn't mean only cost. It is apart from cost, what additional things which we are getting. Just take the example, the Airtel is there, Idea is there, Vodafone is there. Okay, we don't think about paying less, we think getting better services, better signal. So what do we mean by value? It depends from the service provider. Okay, if we speak from the mobile service provider, then we generally speak about the what are the different plans they have, what are the coverage they have, how many towers they have. Okay, the sound quality, how much time it is getting disconnected, and all those things. So that is the value. We know that one. But what do we mean by customer? Because this is the word which is being used maximum. And as I've told you, I'm not going, since it is the first session, I don't want to go in detail of those learnings of those chapters, but I want to go, what is the theme behind those chapters? The certain terminologies which are used. So we'll go a little bit more in detail of that one. Okay. So the author is speaking about the customer. What do we mean by customer? Okay. So I will take a rough example. You can all do Google as well for this example. And you can say, who is the customer in this case? Abdul has purchased insurance for his kids. So I always say there is no punishment for the wrong answer. Okay, but definitely a chai or coffee when we meet one-to-one. Okay, but not in the 5-star hotel. Okay, this conditions applied. Okay,
Kids are the customer.
sorry, kids are the customer.
Yes,
Okay,
kids are the customer.
Abdul should be the customer.
Yeah, I think Abdul is a customer and kids get the value out of that insurance policy.
great, great, good thing, good. So whenever we ask this question, always multiple answer comes. Okay, some say that kids are the customer, and some say that Abdul is the customer. And now we need to be on the same page. What is the definition of the customer from the author's perspective? Because if we don't understand this word, okay, very simple word, customer, and if we don't understand who is the customer, then it's really difficult for us. Then it's really difficult for us. Here, just as I have asked you the question, so we'll have that short question answers, but the detailed question answers will be at the end. Okay, the detail, because we don't we want to keep the session interactive, so that's the reason. Let's ask the question, let's answer, but a detailed question we will keep at the end. Okay, just want to clarify, otherwise I will get less time to present, and the last 20 minutes then we will not be having anything. Okay. Okay, now I will not say what is the right answer. I will take a little bit another example. Let's understand who is the customer in this case. Okay, I have another 4 minutes because I have started at 10:07, so I need to finish by 10:26. Okay, so there is an organization. We are working for multiple organizations, right? The organizations have multiple employees spread across. Okay, and we'll take that. Okay, Microsoft Office. All these employees are using Microsoft Office. Okay, now in this case, employees are using MS Office. Okay, so who is the customer? Okay, just take the example.
Organization is the customer, right?
Yes. Okay, गूगल करके बोला ना आपने?
नहीं सर,
Okay.
इतना जल्दी आओ वाले गूगल.
Okay,
Organization
ChatGPT.
is a customer. Yeah.
Okay, so for Microsoft, okay, whether it is employees or whether it is organization.
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 In my case, I think organization and employee both are the customers, because
Okay.
organization buy Microsoft Office, and their employees are the one who is actually using the product. So in that case, both will be the customer.
Okay. Okay. Now we will see from the angle of the author. Okay. Generally, majority of us are working in the service-based industry. Okay, majority of us are working in the service-based organization. So we always say that those service-based organization, the person or the organization who is outsourcing, so that is the customer. But we need to see from the product space, from the author's angle, because all of these authors, okay, whether it is Mellissa Perri, whether it is any author from the product space, they always say the person who is paying, he is the customer. The person who is paying, for whom the pinch of money is getting. Okay, so he's the customer. So in this case, we can say that, okay, the organization is the customer. The organization is the customer. And in the previous case, where I have purchased the insurance, then in that case, since I have paid the policy amount, so I am the customer in that case. Okay, so summarizing about who is the customer, the person who is always paying the fees, the person who is always paying the money, he is the customer. So just keep these things in our mind when we are reading this book. Okay, when we are reading this book.
Abdul, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the person who is paying, okay, in the first scenario, Abdul is paying the insurance for the family, for the parents. So in that case, Abdul is the customer. And in this case, organization is purchasing the licenses, and we being employees, we use those services. So our organization has purchased the license. So that's the reason organization is the customer for Microsoft. And that is the definition of customer these authors are telling. Okay, it is not me. It is told by these authors, and that is not mentioned in the book. But if we hear their interviews, their tech talks, okay, then they have told these things. Again, these things are not coming from my side. These things are coming from the author side. Okay. Great. So my time is over. And again, we will take detailed question answer session once our next reader or the next presenter share his learning. Okay. So I will keep the recording on. So Masnan, you can start. I will stop
Sure.
the recording.
Abdul, could you please enable the screen sharing?
Yes, sure. My screen share is not enabled.
No, for me, you have actually disabled it for others. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. But my screen is visible to everyone, right?
Right.
My screen is visible, right? Oh, it should not happen that, okay, I was speaking without my screen. Okay, I will enable you.
Probably once you stop sharing, then others can share it.
Yes.
No, I think host has disabled participants.
Yes.
So that has to be enabled.
Yes. So, Masnan, I have made you the co-host and I have stopped my presentation. So over to you. Yes, your screen is visible, Masnan.
But you are on mute.
Thanks for the reminder. Thank you. Yeah.
It was good to start with a thank you slide. Closure.
Sorry. So I'll quickly. Yeah, I'll quickly jump to the agenda. Okay, so I'll be covering 4 of these chapters, and the first one being the value exchange. So what happens is companies operate on a value exchange model. So on one hand, you have the customer who's having problems, wants or needs. And then on the other hand, you have companies who are up there who have agreed to solve those problems. And for them, we'll have a cater system. So we'll be paying them for the services or solving our problems. So that is how this whole value exchange system happens. But the customer realizes value only when their problems are resolved and their wants and needs are fulfilled, not when the kind of a company fulfills their promise. So the promise and the real value will only be derived when the problem statement with which they began, that will be solved. That is how that is where the author has given this beautiful example of a company shipping 30 features, but when they ask and talk within the company, how many of them do you think were used by the end customers? The answer is very surprising, that only a few of them were necessary or came to the best use of customer. And for that to have the best outcome, we need to have the right people, right processes, right policies, right strategies and culture. So this is also another example where the author has given an example of talking to the company CEO and asking, when the CEO asks, what could we do, to overnight change things? And that is where the author is telling the CEO, this is not an overnight thing. We need to change all of these stuff to bring out the real value for the customer. And if you try to ignore any of these above mentioned aspects, you shall face setbacks. So it is not necessary that maybe you will be uh, only looking at some or your objectives and key results. Sometimes could be more towards money for sometimes. For example, if you're a startup, you need that first client, but otherwise you need to have set of all these things, right policies at place, right strategies, right processes, so that the whole company has a particular vision and they're driven towards that thing. And I've given the example of the rigid deployment, where the author is also asking a lot of people, how in this development process, was there a scope of going back and iterating? Were you able to innovate on certain pieces that you shipped? So that is also something that was not there. So that is where the user is, the author is trying to, remind us where the product mindset comes into play. You need to keep on thinking about the customer. Did I ship something? Okay, I've done that. That was part of my job. But has the customer been able to make most out of it? Has that, so when we were thinking about providing this solution, has the customer, has it benefited the way we were thinking? So we need to always go back, talk to the customer, hear to the voice of the customer. So that is where the author is coming from. And these product and services are not, inherently valuable. It is what they do for the customer, as I mentioned, that has value. So companies end up in the build trap when they associate value with the number of things that they produce. For example, here the customer said, maybe we'll ship these 30 features, because sometimes incentives are also laid in such a way that uh, to get a hike or to get that kind of a salary bump, you need to ship those kind of things to earn that thing. But that is where the author is coming from. You don't have to look at those numbers, but rather the value. Maybe you can have those things for the incentives, but you can modify them. For example, as Abdul mentioned, we can look at the ENPS, NPS, or talk to the customer what the customer service scores are, just to understand, has it created value? Is the customer satisfaction being looked or considered when you are considering all of these things? So that is very important. And we should define and measure value and then decide and introspect if it worked or not. So first of all, the value should be there. Maybe then we can talk about, do you really think, so maybe we'll decide on a particular thing. For example, having a good service score. And if our service scores are low, even higher, after the end of this whole process, maybe we can then sit back and visit, was our value actually at a very higher level? Was it actually benefiting the customer? So if not, then maybe we can change or tweak that, but it should be always value driven. That is where the author is coming from. When the companies are value driven, they come out with great results. Customers are happy, and that is where they are okay for the good run. And to get to understand what provides value to the customer, companies need to get their employees closer to the customer so that they can learn from them, and more importantly, having the right policies enable it. For example, not those companies will succeed where they say, okay, we have a customer, maybe try building something for them. But I, as a developer, I, as an architect, I'm not aware of where the customer is coming for. That is where this whole philosophy of stepping into the customer shoe comes from. You try to step into that zone where the customer is and try to feel all of his inherent problems, because only when we'll feel what the customer is feeling, we'll be able to provide the best possible outcome. So that is where we need to educate our teams, our whole organization for the kind of customer they're building the solution for. So only then we'll be able to provide them with the best possible outcome. And then we have product versus services versus project. So this is the whole thing where the author is talking about how some companies have different approaches and what all these approaches are. For example, we don't need to confuse projects with being product led. So a project is a discrete piece of work with a deadline and a specific output. As we all know, with projects, we have certain deadlines we need to measure, that we need to ship our products out by, and we stick to them very strictly. And projects are an essential part of the product development as well. But thinking only in terms of project leads to a build trap. For example, when you are building a product, so example, we have Facebook. Maybe when at first we wouldn't have had a friend request. It's okay. We might have had friend request, and we might have added a blocked feature later. So for example, building or shipping out that block feature is kind of a project. It is a project in itself. But if you only think of the whole problem that you're trying to solve from a project, why that is where we'll again go into the build trap. For example, maybe we need to iterate it and improve it. But when you are thinking from the project mindset, you don't want to visit back and then improve or reiterate on that problem. That is something very important we need to remember. Maybe that is part of the whole product shipment journey, but it is a small part. Rather than when you look at the whole big picture, the product mindset is something that is very important. And very beautifully, the author has said that products are associated with value. They deliver it repeatedly to the customer without requiring to build something new. For example, this is one thing I built for you. Maybe ordering a cab, or just talking to a driver is something, one feature I built for you. So you don't need to keep developing that. So product is such one thing that I built for you. I'll keep on visiting again and again. I'll try to improve that. I'll try to listen to you, what you want. Is it something that is also helpful to you today after a year? Maybe you want something else. I'll keep on improving that, and that is how my customer will be happy. So that is something we need to keep in mind, what from where the author is coming from when she's talking about products. And services are human labor to deliver value to the user, and will always need people to provide those services. So that is where the services part come from. And project again are an essential part of the product development, but only thinking, as we talked about earlier, in terms of project in the long term will have a cost damage. So projects needs to be nurtured and grown to maturity, and it takes time. So as we mentioned, you might have built something good, but you need to keep on visiting them again and again, improving them according to what our customers wants today rather than what they were happy with yesterday. Only then you will have that, customer mindset, or you'll be closer to your customer in that case. So we need to keep on improving that product so that they are happy even yesterday, today, and in the coming days as well. And while reading it, I thought of an example came into my mind, this Social Network movie. So if anyone who's not watched it, please do watch it. It's a very good movie. It's about how the Facebook, the whole product came into being. So if people who have watched it, if you remember, in the first of the movie, when the guy Mark Zuckerberg, when he's developing this Facebook, when he's coming out with the idea, the kind of UI he has for the Facebook, it's astonishingly different of what we have today. So that means they went on again and again, talked to the customer. So they were very product led from that kind of mindset. They had product mindset from the very beginning. For example, in the first, when they started in the first year, throughout the movie, they are showing how the Facebook looked. So there are stark differences. You don't have particular tabs where you show the friend request, the notification tab, and all these tabs together. That was not there. The most part would be catering to your picture and your friend list at the bottom. So, and if I were a user who's using Facebook today with that kind of a UI, that kind of a features or services for me, I won't be happy. Not happy, I would, get off that platform as soon as possible. So that is how they've been successful. That is one thing, that when they visit back and see what has worked for them, I think that is one thing, because they were visiting again and again, listening to the customer, trying to understand what is working for them, what is working for the customer, and then shipping those kind of features for the customer. So that is something, kind of an example that came into my mind, and that exactly suits what the author is trying to say. And we need many iterations of the project, as I said, to enhance the project. Example, a feature enhancement will help the overall project with itself as a project. So as example, that will be part of a project. So it will be a project in itself, but in a longer picture or longer run, that small project, and a lot of these small projects is what make a product. So to continuously iterate them, these small projects are required so that we can keep on servicing these products. So the next chapter is what makes a company a product-led, or what is a product-led organization, what is a sales-led organization, what is a vision-led organization, what is a technology-led organization. So the author has very beautifully given some pointers about all of these sets. So we'll go one by one. So what are product-led companies? So these are companies that understand the success of their products in the primary, and they understand that it's the primary driver of growth and value to their company. So they're always trying to think from the output point, from the value point. So they want to consider, were they successful or were they not, from the value that they have provided to the customer. They prioritize and they organize and strategize around the product success. So they have that product mindset in the place. They're keeping the customer in the center and then building all these features. So that is where the product-led companies come into play. And then we have sale-led companies, and they let their contract define their product strategies. Example, small companies start off as sale-led. As I mentioned, some of these startups might have to start as sales-led, but maybe they can jump off to being a product-led in the longer run. For example, when you are a startup, you're a small company, you need that first client, first paycheck to operate or to just be out there. And they are defined by their contracts. For example, me as a contract, I'll ask that company whose services I'm asking. I've asked them, maybe I want that 100,000 users by the end of the year. I don't know, build something in that way. So in that way, the company who's providing me those values, they have to keep those sales number in mind. Only then they'll be able to cater that audience. But you'll be surprised to know a lot of large companies or good sized companies are also, their overall value or how they structure themselves or how they work are sales led in nature. So there is no problem in being sales led, but your approach overall should be product led. Maybe sales is a part of the driver, or part of your vision, or you can have that as your output. Maybe you can you can build your OKRs in such a way that you'll achieve those goals. But overall, your product-led mindset should be there, so that you're largely, you can be considered a product-led company. What are vision-led companies? And very good example is Apple. That can be a, very powerful if you have the right visionary. So in this case, Steve Jobs was the visionary for Apple, but you don't have a lot of Steve Jobs out there. So that is where, when, for example, now Tim Cook has been there for Apple, but a lot of people are still discussing what's next for Apple, because all these products that they're currently shipping, they were envisioned at the time of Steve Jobs only. And now constantly, because he was a very visionary leader, always taking these risks, even to this day, people are talking about all these things. What is the next thing? What do we ship that should be so visionary in itself that it will kind of shake the whole industry? But that isn't happening. So that is where the problem of vision-led companies come into play. And then there are the technology-led companies, and they are driven by the latest and coolest technology. They often suffer from the lack of market facing and value led strategy. For example, now we have AI. A lot of companies are shifting towards the AI, and this in itself is kind of the latest and the coolest technology. If you go through what's happening and what people are excited about, AI is that thing. But if you don't have that product mindset in place, if you don't have if you're not thinking from the customer point of view, no matter how cool your technology is, at the end of the day, it won't benefit the customer at all. And these product-led companies, they optimize for business outcomes, align their product strategy to these goals, and prioritize the most effective projects as sustainable drivers. Again, as I mentioned, you will be talking to the customer what they want, and then maybe to achieve that want what the customer has, we'll have to divide them into small projects, small MVPs, and then we'll deliver it by one, and then we'll go back to our board. So has a solution that we have built for the customer, has it benefited them? Has it created that value or wants that you're actually talking to? And if that is happening, we are successfully answer to that thing. And to become product led, you need to look at the roles, the strategies, the processes, and the organization itself. And in the first part, as the author had mentioned, when the CEO asks, what we can do, maybe we can hire more coaches such as you, or more teachers who can teach some of these people. Maybe then we'll be able to succeed. And that is not true. We need to have right people, the right strategies, the right processes, the right learnings for everyone in the organization, so that we can all be on the same page and then service our customer. And then again, in this chapter, the author is talking about, what are knowns, what are unknowns, what are the different aspects of a problem. So very interestingly, known unknowns, unknown knowns. So a lot of these terms are there. So we'll read one by one around them, and it will make more sense. So product development is full of uncertainty. Hence, it is important to separate out facts from the things that we learn. So as and when we are talking about a customer, that is where the thought of understanding the customer comes into it, because we cannot always. So sometimes we can guess. Sometimes we can, say, okay, I know this because I heard it from a friend who's working there. Okay, I heard it because there is an internet community out there who's talking that these people might need these kind of things. So we always have some things, that are telling our mind, maybe our friends, our peer group, or social media, for example. So that is, in one way or the another, it will be a precursor to what steps we take. So that is where the whole process of understanding the customer really comes into play. So when kicking off a project, you begin by identifying what you want to know, what you know to be true, that is known knowns. So these are facts that are gathered from data or the customer requirements. Maybe you have got a chance to talk to the customer, or you had some data of a survey that you conducted. From that, because now the solution or the answer to the service, so you can very confidently say these are known knowns to me, and maybe I can take or I can build my product accordingly. I can have my value that I want to deliver to the customer that is associated with it. So these are the known knowns in a project. And then there are known unknowns, and these are the assumptions that you want to test. For example, data points that you want to investigate, or problems you need to identify and explore. For example, now we'll have sensors. So a lot of these stuff was done previously, and again it will be done, because still those unknown remains. We cannot take those previous data points and then go ahead. Still we are doing that census to know what the exact data points today are, but we have a certain idea towards them, but they are still unknowns. So that is where the territory of known unknowns come into place. And then knowns are also there, based on the intuition coming from years of experience. However, it is important to check and experiment if the intuition is right. So people who are working into the organization for a long time, who are into the IT space for a long time, they might be able to say, okay, our customer at the end of the day, they're happy when you do certain kind of things. We don't need to go very deep into all those things. So where are they coming from? They're coming from the intuitions, their year of experience. So that is where we talk about the known unknowns. And the last part is the product management, is the domain of recognizing and investigating known unknowns and of reducing the universe around known unknowns. So sorry. So what happens is there might be certain things which you have no idea about, and you need to steer that territory. Maybe talk to people, generate leads, go for interviews, try to listen to voice of the customers, the previous pain points that people have supported or asked to you to solve, or sometimes people also complain on social media. So there are n number of ways to going through, but you need to reduce these unknown, because only when you will have done the market research, you'll have about all the territories of all the quadrants that the author has listed in the book. Only then you will have the best research done, and you'll be able to deliver the best product out there. And the product manager identifies the features and product that will solve customer problems while achieving the business goals, and they optimize the value exchange system. So again we come over there. So the product manager, what they'll do is they'll talk to the customer, then do brainstorming, then product discovery will happen. So a number of things that the product manager do. But it is very important to know of all these fields, what we actually know, and then reducing what we have no idea of. Only when we'll be able to reduce that part, we'll be able to get more closer to the customer wants and needs. So these were the 4 chapters that I was supposed to read, and over to you, Abdul.
Oh, that was super fast.
Was it very fast? Okay, sorry, I didn't.
No. It was good. It was good. With
No.
the time you was provided, it was really good.
No, you covered it good in nutshell. That's what I also felt. So it was good.
Great. So we will take the question answers from anyone if they have any. Okay.
So if I may ask the first question, Abdul. Probably this is the first time I am being part of the book reading, so I am not aware of the construct. So if you feel that, hey, probably this question does not fit into this construct, do call it out.
Perfectly fine. Yes, sure, definitely.
So what my first thought is that it was a good start, Abdul, where you shared across the intent of the author. When I'm trying to listen out, still I'm trying to understand what is an intent of the book from a perspective of build trap. So
Yes.
is the first slide where you showed the shift left, is that what we can call it out, the intent of the book as well, where they are trying to call it out that moving from an IT thought process to and shift towards a product thought process, is my understanding with the same alignment what everybody else has?
As far as my reading, and since last, I think close to 5 years of experience where I have been spending time with the leading product managers, leading product innovative managers. Okay, so that is the thought process they are bringing in. Okay, because the IT space is always speaking about the solution part. The IT space rarely speak about the problem space part. And these
from the book
authors,
perspective, Abdul, sorry
yeah,
to interrupt, but
no,
from the book perspective, is it what the book is also trying to call it out?
yes.
The
So
build
if
trap, what they are trying to
yes,
say, it's from that specific thought.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. So the title of the book itself starts escaping the build trap. So that is the development trap.
Okay.
So that is the reason we have chosen this book. The reason being is it kind of hit our fundamentals. Okay, and it helped us to come out of that build trap. So that's the reason I have shown that slide.
Okay.
Okay. And this slide, whatever the video or whatever the slide I have shared, so it is there on my LinkedIn as well. Okay, so that in future, when we want to see, or this recording we are going to upload on the channel also, so that in future when we want to see that one, we can refer that. Okay, so whatever the time which we are investing, so that will be useful with the help of recording. Hope this answered the question, Rahul.
Yeah, it does, it does. So if I may ask the second one before anyone else jumps on. Masnan, you brought up a question around value system. And then there was in one of the chapter we said that okay, the organizations are driven from 5 to 6 different types of value system. So do you one example, good example you brought up for a visionary one was Apple. Did you had in the book any specific examples for other systems which was been called out so that we are able to visualize that hey, probably this is aligned to this value system, or something is product driven, something is sales driven. So do you have any organizations which you can link back so that we can, or anyone else who can think about it?
So,
Uh,
sorry, please.
yeah,
Chap.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So nothing of the particular sort was mentioned, but one thing they mentioned, when you're talking about sales-led organization, you can think of startups or these new companies, because when they begin, they're always searching for the first customer. So whatever they do, whatever their journey is, that will be dependent on what the first client asks. So that is where their thinking comes from. Maybe, but going ahead, they can shift their tracks and then be product-led. But the first part of how they began their journey, that is kind of tailored to what the customer is asking. There, that is where the tag of sales led is attached to them. And for the innovation technology led, I think there are a lot of examples, all the cutting edge technologies, companies related to all these AI things that are happening. Maybe we can all put them into that basket. Over to you, Zishan, you were mentioning something.
Yeah, I was just adding an example here because there is an example in the book about Netflix. At one when Netflix was moving away from DVDs to, they were looking for new line of business. They started working on a streaming box, the box which will be attached to a TV, like set-top boxes we have today. And they put a lot of efforts and money into it. But just before the release, email was sent from Hastings to everybody saying that we are killing this project. Because at that point of time, he realized that they are not into a hardware business. They are into a software business. If he channelizes energy into hardware side, they will get distracted from the overall product vision which they have. So they killed that particular streaming device, and then they moved ahead and looked into the how it can be enabled down the line after a couple of years over internet streaming services. But although the product was ready, they still did not go ahead and release it into the market just because of the vision they had.
Okay. Thanks, Jishan.
So Abdul, I have a question related to that customer, like who is paying the money that becomes the customer, right? So the example that you have shown looks really interesting. You're buying insurance for your kids, but I'm thinking from a different perspective. For example, let's take an example of my father is paying for my education, right? He's actually not a customer. He's just pay the fees. But I'm the one who is going to spending the entire 2 years, 3 years for getting the education. And I'm actually the consumer of that, right? So education will become my product. And I know I'll have to spend entire year, 2 years, 3 years learning there in the college. So I'm the one who will be able to provide the feedback that whether the education is good or not. My father
True.
doesn't know whether the college is good or bad, the
True.
teachers are teaching correct or not. So in that perspective, how does my father become a customer? Because
True.
he's paying the money, but he's not consuming.
Yep.
Right? I'm the one who's consuming. So in that perspective, how does it make sense to say that the person who is paying the money becomes the customer?
Yep. Very nice question, and a very common question when and these questions I get in multiple forums, and generally Masandan is also there, right? So this is very a common question, and this is a very common confusion. So when we speak from the angle of these product pioneer, the different books which we have, the names which we have shared, right? Like it is Mellissa Perri, it is Jeff Gothelf, Jeff Patton, okay, or Teresa Torres, or Marty Kagan, or we can say John Doerr. Okay, so these are the people who are considered as the product pioneer. Okay, and from their perspective, the person who is the decision maker, okay, the decision maker, he generally pays that money, and there will be multiple impacted system around that one, multiple impacted people around that one, around that decision. Okay, so if I take as the student, my father has paid the fees, so that means my father is the decision maker over there.
Okay.
Okay, and we can say that, okay, ourselves, we are taking the education, we are living on our father's money and all those things, right? So there are multiple names for that one, might be stakeholder, might be end user, blah blah blah, and all those things. But keeping aside those words, here in this session we are concentrating on the word customer. Okay, and from the pioneers of these books, these concepts, these author, the concept of customer is the decision maker, or the person along with decision maker, along with paying money, paying that fees in case of education, in case of insurance, purchasing that insurance. Okay, so that is the broad layman definition which is being given. Okay, so that's the reason I've covered those concepts at the beginning. Okay, hope this answered the question.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused how.
Can I
Yes.
pitch it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Zishan, please go ahead. I was about to say
Yeah,
anyone wants to pitch in.
yeah. I just want to add one point here. That suppose
Mhm.
your father, you're considering your father not as a customer. Now he paid for your college fees and your college is complete. Now it's time for your brother to go to the college. So will your father not come back to you and ask, son, how was the college? Will he not consider whether you were placed into the got a placement service or not, and how you fared? So whether your father will not come back before enrolling your younger brother into the same college for your feedback. So ultimately, the feedback will reach to your father in somehow, although he may not be the direct beneficiary of the services there. But when the next time the decision has to be taken for buying the same service again, he will always go back to the actual consumer of the service and ask whether it helped him or not.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense, because now that I understood that I'll become a kind of customer, will provide a feedback to the decision maker. And our decision maker can decide whether we should have to continue with this product or we should have to skip this. So now that's clear. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Zishan, for adding those additional views. Okay. Yes, dear friends, any counter question? Because we all are learning,
So,
so
but
that's
then,
perfectly fine.
so this also becomes another problem, right? For example, candy or Dom's pencil. Uh, so the end buyer are mostly the parents, but the consumers are the kids, and the demand generators are also the kids, right? So when you design the product, you design it for the kid. Your customer is your, but the buyer is your is the parent. Then how do you, then whom do you decide to be the customer? You cannot say that the parents are the customer, because they don't have any say in what pencil or what candy a person has to buy. It's all you know, it's all kids generated.
So if I may add on top of it, from Akbar's point, Akbar's point is if we see the value itself, like there was a question, there was a perspective which Abdul brought in, that when you talk about value, what are different type of values. So in this Candy's perspective, the value from for a, if I'm a candy maker, I would define value in from a two different perspectives. Someone who is consuming it, the value would be the taste, or how it works for it, and the second value would be the cost. So if I need to sell the candy, I need to make sure that I'm hitting a right cost, which would make a parent to buy it, and then I should have a value for the customer, for the kids, so that they are going to, it should taste well, so that they are going to ask for it. They should specifically call it out, saying that okay, this is something which is I want, like I want a bubble gum which is boomerang, or I want a candy which is I want lollipop which is of this product. So, but the value also should be, value from a cost should also match in, because in market, if a father or a mother sees there's a lower value product available with a similar flavor, he or she would go with the other brand. So I think that's how, as a product, I we may need to think about. I'm just thinking out loud. Probably I may not be right in that perspective.
So I like this, but then when it comes to certain things, kids dictate. The price point is important, but then here, I believe the kid is the customer, because you have to specifically market that he can convince the student. So it's similar to, similar to like proxy products that we have. So you're not basically catering to the parents, you're catering to the student, to the kids, because kids are then basically convincing the parents that I want this, right? So they are your customer. Just the money is not coming from them.
Right. Yeah. That's
Similarly for the
perfect.
pencil.
Yeah.
So and at some point the price doesn't matter, because candies are all is a very competitive and commoditized market. So you cannot anyways charge large margins, right?
No, I understand, and that's
Uh,
precisely where I said that the value needs to be thought from a different perspective when we are trying to target the customer. So your first point where, how to define a customer, someone who is paying the money should be a customer, or someone who is actually consuming or getting a value out of it is a customer, is where the perspective lies.
So
So
yeah, so it depends. So for my perspective, it depends on situation to situation. For Byju's, if you talk of any edtech, edtech for students, the parents are the customers, because kids generally don't want to buy a online tuition. The parents has to be convinced. So now there the customer is defined, but then other things are very gray line, right? Whom do you target? So for me, always, and there I differ from the author also, that the buyers are not always the customers.
True, Akar. I agree with that one. Okay. And this platform is for agree to disagree. Okay. This platform is for agree to disagree. Okay.
True.
And if you see my experience as well, okay. Um, being in IT since last 20-21 years, okay, I also had certain experience baggage. I also had certain experience baggage. Okay. I also had certain views, okay, about the customer, about the value and all those things. Okay. But when I jumped into these books, these learnings, I tried to unlearn what I'm considering as the customer. I try to unlearn what I'm telling as the customer. Okay, there are multiple views. There are multiple views, 100% true. And in this forum, let's agree to disagree. Okay, but at the same time, we have to be on the same page, at least for when we are reading this book, right? At least till the time when we are reading this book.
True that. True that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the questions which I am going to ask, the thought process which I am going to build around, that will not suffice this purpose of this book reading club. So that's the reason, instead of going inside those details, I tried to find out what should be the common platform to proceed further. And these are the two words and the earlier slide, okay, about the shift left space. So that's the reason I have targeted these things. Okay, so I agree, Akar, with you. Okay, your view might be different. I agree. I respect that one.
And I think sometimes reading a lot of books is also has made me a little convoluted, because I was going through Inspired before this, and it has a different perspective of building the tech products, right?
Uh,
So
True.
so
Whether you
now,
take
and now
inspired,
I've started reading this book, so
yes,
it becomes it becomes haywire sometimes.
yep. Whether you take inspired, whether you take empowered, okay, or you take the earlier version of inspired as well.
Right,
Okay, from Marty Kagan's perspective, if you speak with the author of that book, then the customer is the one who is paying the money.
right, right,
Okay,
right,
so if you are reading those books, then I'm damn sure the customer is a person who is the decision maker and who is paying the money. That's for sure.
right,
From
right, and
this author.
so that
Yes.
is something that that's something that I'm still understanding, that why. And
Yes.
yeah, so it's something new to me,
Yes.
and I'm pretty pretty new to the product game, so
Yes.
for me it's all learning.
Let me put to you one thing very important. For last 20 years, the customer has been, normally you guys say ki customer is the payer. Okay. And then like, for example, a child is the customer who's using the product, but the payer is his dad. Okay. In today's world, for last 20 years, the kids are also getting decision making capability to tell fathers that we wanted to buy this thing. These are the number of things which we are benefiting out of it. Okay. So the customer perspective is changing day by day because of digital transformation. The kind of insight which the kids have today, they suggest their dad to buy those things. So the perspective of customer buying and the uh, uh, forget about the ticket values and all those things. The customer getting the insight, and the marketing guys and the product initiative guys are also looking at from those perspectives. So the earlier days have gone where only the one decision maker was there, but now there are a lot of people who give the decision maker some insight, and then he decide on the product to buy or not.
This gives me kind of okay, when we are at home, who is the customer? Who is the decision maker?
Yes. Sometimes the kids are the decision maker, sometimes the family is the decision maker, sometimes you are the decision maker.
Yes.
So things have changed.
The last sometime is very, 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 very small part.
Wife is the decision maker
And
ultimate.
and
Nay,
Rahul has already proved that point, because both the examples of candy which he gave and the bubble gum he gave, I don't think those products exist. He has not bought candies in lost a lot of time, I think.
That's true. That's true.
Yes. So, dear friends, any other question apart from this one? I think we gave sufficient time for this point. And if we don't have any question, then as always, we don't want to keep everyone engaged. Okay. Any other counter question? Any other? Don't feel I'm making hurry. Just I want to make sure that okay, we all get value out of these meetings.
I think these are sufficient discussion that we had based on the slides that you and Ratna had provided, and it's a good starting point, at least for me, because I just started as a product manager. So excellent discussion, and like you said, the more we keep it short, the more better.
Yep.
And we learn a lot from this session. So maybe looking forward to
Great.
joining more discussions. Thank you.
Are
And
we planning to put the content
no
or the
voice.
text in a common place, Abdul? Because I think
Yes.
both the decks are really very well put in. So when we are going through those chapters, it would make more effective to also keep those decks in front of us so that it helps us to realign the thoughts what we are also building upon.
Yep. So now I'm stopping the recording. Okay. And we will discuss on that point.